welcome to the October Midstream meeting. My name is Paul Mattis. I'm one of the four hosts. Thank you for coming. Most important thing, the restroom is out that door, and just keep turning right till you get to the end of the hall. I'll make sure to thank Unitarian for the Zoom. Basically, all we do is show up, and it's all set up for us. We don't pay anything for it. We're not affiliated with the church, so thank you very much. And I'll start with something small of mine. This is called Smile. The server smiles as she passes. It is not forced, but it is not special. It is not really for you, though she does it in part, so you'll wonder if it is. It is part of what you're paying for here. You could go somewhere else and pay someone else to be curt and impatient and say, I hate my job, and you don't exist, with her whole body. It would cost about the same, but the tip there would feel like an obligation and not a thank you. Here, you may learn her name, and she may learn yours, and maybe at closing time, she will share a drink with you. Hope will flicker for a moment that the wall isn't there, and this isn't all business. But when they lock the front door behind you, you are just as alone as when you walked in, and it is quiet and cold outside. And tomorrow, she will pass by someone else and smile. Emily August is an associate professor of literature. Her debut poetry collection, The Punishments Must Be a School, examines themes of embodiment, intergenerational trauma, and institutionalized violence. Her poems have appeared in Callaloo, Cimarron Review, Hayden's Ferry Review, Missouri Review, Ninth Letter, Southern Humanities Review, and other journals. She divides her time between Lake Superior's North Shore and the Atlantic Ocean's Jersey Shore. Please welcome Emily August.
Thank you, everyone. Is this positioned appropriately? Yeah. Wonderful. It's a huge honor to be here, and I'm going to set my little timer here, keeping track. There we go. Boy, the older you get, the less you see. All right. I'm going to read a couple poems from my book and a couple of new poems. It took me forever to start writing new poetry after my book came out. I just couldn't do it, and magically it did happen. I'm going to start with a poem called Black-Eyed Susan. Grandfather sharpens the kitchen knives at his whetstone. The wounded haunt the fields of switchgrass that smother the farm. Choked in heather up to its tar paper, the rotting shed at the property's edge slowly dilapidates into the bed of Black-Eyed Susan, planted long ago at its door. Inside its walls, the tractor chains grandfather inherited hang despondent, clogged with the skins of the last generation of crops. Grandfather labors at the creeks of water, holding the heads of his children under. Grandfather looms over his children, instilling the belt. Grandfather blinds his children's eyes, seeking the source of memory. But he cannot erase himself from the distance. The children bloom into bruises of amber and green, and they cultivate new blooms of blood along their own children's cheeks. Eventually, all the children are born with scars that mimic the tremor of household stitches lining their tiny bodies, like old ghosts who sharpen knives in the kitchen. And there they are. The old ghosts. Oh, I don't know. My work is very heavy, so the ambiance is much appreciated. As Paul mentioned, my first book is a lot about kind of intergenerational trauma and dealing with trying to articulate a kind of generations-long history of family violence that I seem to have inherited in a kind of through the back doorway through intimate partner violence. And so starting with kind of wrestling with my own experience with intimate partner violence and then kind of looking back to my family history to kind of document and in some sense mythologize that kind of burdensome legacy of violence. This poem is called Beyond the Frame. Mother darkens the bedroom doorway. Her shadow damages the shapes the room otherwise makes. The flowering spread and bedside slippers assume sinister silhouettes. The children crouch inside the closet, leaving it open, just a crack. They don't hold hands. Outside, as a newborn moth panics against the chain link fence, the children sense father deeper in the hallway, escaping the room's edge. He too casts a pall, shrouding mother. He must be hulking beside her, preparing his fists beyond the frame. Mother, threatened and threatening. It's hard to know who you're protecting. Outside, the moth must weigh the energy it will take to free itself and to mend the injuries its wings incur. To survive, it must believe in the cone of dust that the light makes visible. Its life is so brief, it could seem easier to stay caught there. So I kind of toggle back and forth between sort of personal history, kind of mythologized family history, and then a sort of wider scope of kind of communal history, a kind of mythologized communal history that when I was writing the last poems in this book sort of linked up with some of the kind of ongoing contemporary violence happening in our culture. In particular, I wrote this next poem after the murder of Philando Castile, which for me and probably for many others in this room was kind of the emotional turning point. I know for the nation, the emotional turning point was George Floyd, but this was kind of a bit of a inspiration for that. It's called Past Civilization. All day, the corpses pile up, lining the sidewalks. At night, the dump trucks come. The gods can hear our bones crack in the compactors. The machines are so burdened that they regularly need to be repaired. Their technicians attuned to the moment our bodies become unbearable. The streets are swept in the blackest hours, so the children can awake into a recurring emptiness, an unsoiled place where nothing happened the day before. We don't even leave ghosts behind anymore. All we have left is this single secret we whisper furtively amongst each other before the next person disappears. Past civilization, past the boxwood hedges, past the homesteads and the sunflower fields, beyond the wild plains with their yellowing heather. There is the gaping, aching ground in which they dispose of us. Only there can we finally be safe together. Excuse read a lot of, I'm a literature professor, I read a lot of literature aloud to my students and end up crying in my classes. So I tell my students it's like really emotionally healthy to like watch people emote in public, and then that makes them a bit more comfortable. This is a new poem that I've written since my book came out. My book, one of the things that my book is dealing with in the most subtle possible way you could imagine is my own kind of wrestling with biracial identity. It's probably the tenderest part about me that is extremely difficult for me to write about, and I couldn't quite be explicit about it in that book, but it really haunts the underneath. And I found myself writing a couple of more explicit poems after the book came out, and this is one of them. It's called Biracial Ghoul. Every winter, the sun's withdrawal pales my skin. Yes, the moon makes tides, but the sun is also a magnet, pulling the melanin from my body in its departure. Inch by inch, hour by hour, I creep whiter. My white friends hold up their arms against mine, laughing at being blacker than me. I know why the colonizers called us sterile. A ghost can't reproduce. This next poem, it's inspired by chronic illness, but when I read it, a lot of people kind of link it to the current political moment, so whatever you want to do with it. It's called Recurse. The thing I dreaded most has come to pass. Don't bother asking how I'm surviving it. If I'm surviving it, I can't tell. Every morning when I awake, I lift my palms, directing a futile plea skyward. Is it time? I ask the hypothetical being who lives there. Am I done yet? And every night, the answer, again, is no. I make myself sick over and over, trying to make myself well. It doesn't end, and it doesn't end, and it doesn't. I crave a heart. I crave a throat. I smell the blood I tried to wipe from the ancient stone table. I ready the implements for the next ritual tomorrow. Yesterday's ghost steadies my hand. And then this final series of poems I'll read comes from a specific project I'm embarking on that is adjacent to erasure, but not quite an erasure. It's adjacent to, what's the, like Cento? Is that the one where you, yeah, it's adjacent to Cento, but it's not that. I'm calling them excavations, where I'm kind of taking a source text and pulling lines from kind of all over the text and then reassembling them into the narrative that I want to tell through the text. And these poems come from my excavation of Charles Dickens' Great Expectations. So here we go. I've literally never read these to anyone. At first, that mysterious place was scarcely visible through the mist. The white vapor, the choking vapor crept in a ghostly way towards the darkening garden, the neglected garden, the ruined garden. The rooks hovered about the phantom air and swung in the bare, high trees. All about us was stagnation and mud. Then, a large and dismal house rose up from the ooze. I came to the place when I was a little child, delivered by hand, delivered over to her. I knocked and was told from within to enter. I entered that place like blood from an inward wound. I beheld a solitary figure a very specter in her shroud of a dress, satins and lace and silks, all of white. She had secluded herself years and years, waiting for some reply. There was an air of utter loneliness about her. She was most weird. One weird smile interrupted the dead wall of her face. In a ghostly manner, she touched her bosom with her hand. I had a strange and strong misgiving. I was not related to the phantom. I only know that I found myself holding the hand stretched forth to me. Mother by adoption, your face was strange and frightened me. It would have been so much better for me never to have entered. Even when I could not see her, she seemed to be everywhere, always wandering about that house. Her wanderings, like white vapor creeping, like reluctant smoke. I perceived a hot breath, always close to me, breathing at the keyhole, lying in ambush behind the gate. This gradually led to the suspicion of being watched, followed by white eyes in the ghostly wall. I heard pursuers in my broken sleep, the echoing of their swollen throats. I lived in a state of chronic uneasiness. Each time I entered my room, I was conscious of a scent that I knew, certain that it had not been there a moment before. Thank you.
Kathryn Kysar is the 2025 winner of the Association of Writers and Writing Programs George Garrett Award for Outstanding Service to Literature, and recipient of a 2024 Creative Individual Minnesota State Arts Board grant in creative nonfiction. Her poetry books include Dark Lake and Pretend the World, and she edited Riding Shotgun, Women Write About Their Mothers. She has recently published in About Place Journal, The Fourth River, Hayden's Ferry Review, Slag Glass City, and Waterstone Review. She is the Creative Writing Program founder and English professor at Anoka Ramsey Community College and teaches poetry writing at the Loft Literary Center. Kathryn Kysar.
How's everybody doing? None of my students are in the room, is that correct? Okay, I invited them, but they're not here, so we can get to the real stuff. Thank you to Paul and Unitarian for hosting us. I'm really thrilled to be reading with Davi and Emily and Debra. So thanks so much for coming. And I'm going to try to pick up on a few of the grandfather ancestry themes. I just returned from a short trip visiting my mom, who's 92, up in Vermont. And she's really insistent on telling family stories right now. She's one of the last of her generation. And we've got our ancestry going back to the 1500s in Germany. You know, they basically sat in this small town in Germany century after century, right? But it only traces the men. So I'm really interested in hearing what she knows about the lives of some of the women in her family. So one of my great-grandmother on my mom's side was like a mail-order bride. She was from the same small town in Germany, and you know there was a guy from the same small town in Germany in Eustis, Nebraska. So they sent for her. She came over. She had to work for 3 years as an indentured servant in New York City to pay back her passage and buy money for her train ticket. She then got on the train and went to Nebraska to marry a guy that she had never ever met, like a friend of a friend from the town knew. So it just continually amazes me. the bravery of some of these past people, and the importance of all of us to kind of figure out where we're coming from so we know where we're going. This is called My Identities. I am an albatross, a Gideon Bible, a fleeting glimpse of a crow looking for roadkill at dusk. I am solid mass. I am gaseous fluids. I am soft, soft flesh. I sip tea from my porcelain cup. 2 cups, maybe 3. I am the Encyclopedia Britannic moldering in your attic, the feeling of loss, of yearning, of emptiness, a rumbling deep. I am that last clump of dirty snow. I am the dog foraging behind your garage, the unused dental floss, not the neatly packaged rolls at the grocery store entrance, wrapped in plastic and so strangely sweet. I'm a shadowy park bench in the fading orange light. I am melting ice, the silence of early morning streets. I am your missing arm. I glow in the gas stove's heat. Where I come from. German ghosts, indentured servant girls, from a great aunt who painted her prairie staircase black, from my grandmother who lost her closest sibling, then held her son, a prince of her dry farmhouse birth, tightly on her lap. From my mother who recollects honey-sweetened cakes from World War II, from European seeds on stolen land. German. During the First World War, my great-grandparents burned all the German books except the Bible, which they kept hid in the canvas in the root cellar. They would not speak German, even in hushed tones at home. Grandma strove to enunciate each word clearly, to memorize English poems she could tick from her tongue like cards from a dealer's hand. They stopped making strudel, Lebkuchen, spätzle, and springele, and instead cooked green beans until blanched pale, casseroles with pronounceable names ending in hot dish to be served in the Methodist church basement. During the Second World War, there were no concentration camps in Idaho, though God help Wilhelm, or GW as he was known, feared when from his dusty tenement farm he saw the Japanese and sometimes the Chinese by mistake rounded up. Saved by the color of his skin, if he kept his mouth shut, his head down, the irrigation water turned high every Thursday, church on Sunday, the store on Saturday morning, they could pretend to be safe, but at home he hid coins in jars beneath the floorboards, on the attic rafters, behind the canned tomatoes in the cupboard. He was ready for another depression, another draft, a war. He was waiting, always ready, knowing he was the little guy, knowing the bankers owned his land, knowing his tongue revealed his origins, knowing politics could change, and he would once again be the one that they had to blame to make rest of the country feel safe. So this is an older poem, but I've been thinking so much about our complicity in our silence these last 2 years as we are living through genocide. So this is actually an old one, but I'm revisiting it. Cutting bread. Making sandwiches in the late night house, she cuts heavy crusted bread with a long serrated knife. Crumbs of grain gather on coarse wooden board as her blade saws through the tender middle. Darkness breathes through the summer windows. A BBC voice tells of atrocities in Iraq, heads cut from bodies held high for the camera, ski-masked villains clutching them by the hair. Though she cannot see the knife, she imagines it bloodied and curved, cutting through tendon and vertebra, blood pumping after the body was severed, the bit of flesh hanging off the end. Above her, children and husband sleep, windows open to the rhythm of cars passing, echoes of train wheels on trestles, cicadas in tall grass. The earth breathes, the bread breathes too. She slides sandwiches into plastic bags, presses, zippers, sealing them in. She turns off the radio and stands in starlight. The knife on the counter by the sink, she walks the stairs to join the sleeping. So Paul, how much time do I have left? He didn't know I was gonna ask.
8 minutes.
8 minutes? Oh, wow, okay, that's a lot. Well, I wanna do a little bit of neighborhood stuff because, Debra, are you reading about Rondo?
I sure am.
Okay, well, so I grew up in Rondo.
My new book.
I grew up in the Midway, adjacent to Rondo. We were very friendly with Rondo. Who can name the 4 buses that separated Rondo? Anybody? There was number 4 on Snug, there was number 3 on Grand, there was number 6 on Dale, and of course the 21A. So I've been writing about some of my ancient past in the 70s and 80s growing up in the Midway. And I'll read you 2 of those poems just in anticipation of Debra's Rondo. So this is Midway stuff. Black asphalt. We started the steamy summer yanking woozy lilacs from towering bushes as we pumped our bikes down asphalt alleys, sunburned Hawaiian punch kids. We stole candy from the pharmacy, played hide and seek in the Methodist church, the neighbor boy trying to pull down our underwear in dusty closets. We watched the Apollo 15 landing, lolling on rough living room carpeting. Rockets haunted our sleep. Our breakfasts were space food sticks, Tang, and a cereal with a cartoon alien on the box, though you never had enough food for your large family. I wanted to rescue you, but failed, like the streamer that blew off the handle on my muddy bike, the wheels swishing the sparkly plastic into a gray puddle. Later, we were proud of our feet, our thick calluses built up as we walked the city's cement sidewalks, imagining a sea parting for our jangling bracelets, our fringed leather, our peace decals on the hems of our faded bell-bottom jeans, long flags of brown hair waving behind us. We held our feet out bravely like the album cover on Abbey Road, almost floating in our flowing white cotton dresses, the incense of cigarettes glowing in our virginal hands, records tucked in our large cloth bags. Straight and tall, we strode the streets in our dusty bare feet, ignoring the pain, ignoring the black asphalt that's beneath us. This is called Smoke, 1977. We were cool with Cool 100s, not the fake candy cigarettes from the convenience store with the broken linoleum and the kids with notes from their parents for their parents' Pall Malls. Long brown Virginia Slims made us look thin and beautiful. Once we got kicked out of a dingy diner for smoking Darjums, the clove cigarettes that stung our mouths and numbed our lips. Addiction dawned at McDonald's breaks, at the linoleum tables with their little tinfoil ashtrays. Car exhaust blackened snow as we stood thumbs out, hoping for a past joint, a smoky party house, the obscurity of a darkened basement, the bass thumping, our insecurities hidden as we posed in our jeans-covered long legs and flat chests, Salem's extended, tapping the ashes on the cement floors, girls trying to be women in all the wrong ways. And then we discovered punk rock, and that's a whole other thing. Just so I don't go over time and make Paul mad at me, I think I will wind it up, but I'm going to end in my current neighborhood, which is over by East River Road. I'm in the Macroga neighborhood now, so never made it to Rondo, but still in St. Paul. This is called Nocturne. Driving the curves of East River Road on the cliffs above the Mississippi, the warm summer air rushes in the car windows. The lampposts glow golden circles on the bike path of the road. A gray possum scurries into the bushes, heading down the hill. I want to die when I can no longer drive alone after dusk, the windows down, the radio turned up, the tunes all brash and loud and rebellious, with a slight tinge of longing like a Bruce Springsteen song. The wind's sweet fragrances, azalea, lilac, crabapple, all pollen and hope rolling down the darkened street, opening the possibilities of spring, of summer, of the night sky, the stars appearing on the horizon above the trees, the air slightly chilling. The songs bring me back to the dance floor, those watery beers, the teenage getaways where freedom was movement, driving, no stop signs or stoplights, the water below swiftly slipping toward Des Moines, St. Louis, New Orleans, the shining streetlights a little bit brighter, the night sky a little dimmer, as gray clouds cover the crescent moon. Thank you.
How could I possibly be mad at you? Debra J. Stone is a Jerome Hill Arts Fellow in Literature, 2023 through 2025, the Loft Mirrors and Windows Fellow 2023, and the 2024 Minnesota State Arts Board grant recipient. Recently, she was at the Story Knife Writing Retreat in Homer, Alaska. The University of Minnesota Press published her debut novel, The House on Rondo. Debra resides in Minneapolis with her husband and dog Ruby and Australian cattle dog Red Healer.
Well, here it is.
Lower the mic. Move
Oh,
the mic.
I'm so short.
Yeah, so tall, it's my fault.
It's okay. It's been my thing all my life, has been the short person follows the tall person. I wrote this book for my family, who my mother is from Rondo and my father is a North Side boy from the Sumner Housing Department or Housing Development. Black folks crossed the river with no problem. So when he met my mother at a basketball game between Phyllis Wheatley and Hallie Q. Brown, love happened. So I'm going to read a couple chapters, very short chapters, about Rondo. And I, being a North Side girl, would come and visit my grandparents faithfully every Sunday. So I would have been a Rondo girl, but I was raised on the North Side, except for Sunday. Something was amiss in the summer of 1963. White men drew chalk arrows showing where gas, electrical, and water lines ran. The men were sunburned red, wearing t-shirts stained with black dirt and sweat. The water main line broke and water gushed everywhere, cracking the sidewalk and erasing the girls' game of hopscotch. Interstate 94 was coming through the neighborhood. Children were sent to bed while adults spoke with hushed voices and filled the air with curse words. Adults talking of having no political clout, of there being no use calling political representatives on the telephone. They did not have the kind of access to power that others had. Children saw anger and despair. It was clear no one on Rondo Avenue could stop the change about to happen. Neighbors organized to resist, but when Mrs. Ruby Pearl's doors and windows were nailed shut with plywood and marked for destruction, the steel cyclops with men in wire cages appeared, driving monsters with roaring engines and smashing teeth, splintered the wood frame house and shattered windows. Dump trucks carried off what remained as the neighbors faced their defeat. And who is telling this tale? The shattered bones of the houses on Rondo. Who else cares about the people uprooted again? We are here to be remembered with dreams and hopes and laughter and pain and death that must not be buried in the dusty files of old office buildings. We were the houses on Rondo where those denied found sanctuary. We were the houses of blues and jazz and rock and roll and jitterbug dancing where families applauded, celebrated, and praised themselves when no one else would. Our families were resilient, stronger than the bulldozers that struck down the houses of Rondo. We're still alive in the memory and hearts of those who will continue with the stories in mind. There are many stories, so forgive me if I dwell on this one family, this one girl with their highs and lows who lived in this house on Rondo Avenue. This next chapter I'm going to read is about Zenobia. The main character is Zenobia, and she is at her grandparents' house. Her mother has been deathly ill, and so the children have been sent to Grandma's house in St. Paul, much to the chagrin of Zenobia because she's missing her friends and swimming in Glenwood Lake in Minneapolis. Grandma Essie's house. Grandma Essie stood only 4 feet 11 inches. Zenobia would stand and measure back to back against Essie, and she nearly reached her height. Essie's sparkling laugh showed perfect white sculptured teeth. Her ruby red lipstick outlined full lips and matched her polished fingernails, and in the summer, her toes too. She styled the slightly wave to her shoulder-length hair into a French twist. Grandpa told Zenobia that as a young girl, Essie's hair reached all the way down to her back. She dressed in high heels all the time. Zenobia never saw Grandma Essie in flats or pants, except on Memorial Day and the 4th of July family picnics at St. Croix State Park, or in the backyard. Her closet was crammed with shoes. Zenobia could never choose which ones to try on. Shoes so small she could barely fit into them, in all colors: red, green, purple, blue, black, beige, grays, tan, but not brown. There were suede and leather and patent leather ones. Zenobia could tell there were shoes for specific outfits. A green satin pump with rhinestones matched a green satin dress with spaghetti straps that slid up the back. Zenobia searched for a pair she liked. She clumped through the house trying to keep her balance. Not once did Essie scold Zenobia for wearing her high heels. However, if Zenobia asked Grandma Essie her age, she'd say, "Old enough to whip your behind." She knew when to stop asking. Grandma Essie had waited until Zenobia arrived so she could help make the powdered sugar buttered frosting in the pantry. Hung the apron Grandma Essie had sewn for her. Zenobia stood next to Grandma Essie at the counter on a wooden footstool Grandpa Joe carved for her. Mookie and Fanny sat on the chairs at the kitchen table, swinging their short legs in anticipation of the buttery frosting. The kitchen was small with maple counters and steel cabinets that clanged when closed. The pantry shelves were lined with flour, sugar, colorful spices, canned yellow and green beans, apple butter, canned peaches, and tomatoes grown in Grandpa Joe's backyard. The stove and refrigerator were old and with rust forming around the handles. On top of the Formica kitchen sat a silver and glass salt and pepper shakers shaped like tulips, a white butter dish, and a matching sugar bowl. Here, Zenobia, use this cup for the powdered sugar. Fill it up to the top, then put it in the bowl. Grandma Essie never used the store-bought measuring cup. For as long as Essie had been cooking and baking, she used the coffee cup with the broken handle for measuring and making the frosting for the vanilla pound cake. Essie wasted nothing, not even broken dishes. Now mix in the stick of butter while I pour in the milk. Grandma, can I pour? Not this time, baby girl. Last time you kind of made a mess, but I can do it. Oh, don't worry, sugar. You can make a mess some other time. Okay, otherwise, how do I learn, Grandma? Essie nodded her head in agreement. Zenobia stirred until her arm ached. The frosting became smooth and runny, and Grandma let her drizzle it on the pound cake as she sat at the platter, as it sat at the platter. 3 spoons appeared on the counter, and Zenobia, Mookie, and Fanny scraped the remaining icing from the bowl, leaving it as clean as if it had been washed. Grandma Essie, who taught you how to bake vanilla pound cake? My mama, just like I'm teaching you. It's easy, making pound cake, Zenobia, said Grandma. You're named after your great-grandma, Zenobia. I bet you didn't know that. Who was great-grandma Zenobia? Why hadn't she ever heard of her before, thought Zenobia. Really? Yes, okay. Butter, sugar, eggs, and flour, then add whatever you want. Like what? Well, some folks like to put in some rum or lemon, some honey, or a dash of nutmeg. During hard times, we used margarine or less butter and added some sour cream. The sour cream made the cake moist, gave it a tangy taste too. Zenobia paused a moment. Grandma, can I ask you something? Lord, child, more questions. I told you about the pound cake. What else? Can you tell me about great-grandma Zenobia? No, not now. Maybe later. First, I want you to take your suitcases upstairs and help your brother and sister get settled. You, Fanny, have the bedroom at the top of the stairs, and Mookie is in the room closest to the bathroom. Then you all can go outside and play, but no messing around until then. Please, I want it done now. Why does everything have to be done now, thought Zenobia. Since she said now, there was no more asking questions, and Zenobia knew Essie didn't take to messing around. Zenobia didn't want to be the sassy girl. Grandma Essie didn't use switches unless her grandchildren had really done something bad, like play basketball in the living room, like Mookie did once, or the time Fanny was caught with Grandpa Joe's matches that he used to light his cigars. As much as Zenobia liked the smell of lilacs in the spring, they also made powerful switches. The sting of supple branches singing through the air was like a million mosquitoes attacking your legs. She'd rather hear Grandma give her a talking to and go on about how she never raised her children to ask more questions. And she continued talking with, why on earth did her grandchildren have to act like she was some kind of Encyclopedia Britannica? Most children would be satisfied just to do as they were told without a lot of who shot John. This was Grandma Essie's favorite saying. Zenobia wanted to ask her, who shot John? And where did John come from? And why did he get shot? And why was he really shot? But she knew she better not, because Grandma Essie would say she was being sassy. Oh, and there.
Thank you, Debra. Some announcements. Did anyone bring books to sell? Yes. So a wise man once said, people who profess to love poetry and don't buy books are cheap sons of bitches. So please buy some books. We have an email list. We basically send out 2 announcements a month to tell you about the next reading. If you'd like to sign up, come find me afterwards. So I don't have to try to read your handwriting. And one last thing. said, we get the room for free from the church. So if you feel you would like to help offset the cost of that, you get to watch a Jew pass the collection basket. All right. Davi Gray is a queer, trans, non-binary poet, a writer, performer, artist, producer, activist, and abolitionist. They live in Bede Ota Otunwe, which we also call Minneapolis, on unceded lands of the Dakota and Ojibwe. Davi has work published in Poetry, Waterstone Review, Hayden's Ferry Review, and elsewhere. She was a finalist for the Haymarket Writing Freedom Fellowship in 2025, has been awarded grants by the Minnesota State Arts Board, the City of Minneapolis, and others, and is producing a podcast due out in spring 2026. Her first poetry collection, This Body Is Fruit, a finalist for the 2025 Louise Bogan Award for Excellence in Poetry, will be published by Trio House Press in February 2027. You can find more on Davi and her work, including publications and upcoming events and performances, at davigray.com. Thank you, Ray.
Thanks for having me here to read, and thank you all for showing up. Listen. Fielding questions about gender. What is wrong with you is the pitcher's mound of every asking. Why can't you just quit crying? Play the game. Play ball. It's the easiest out. Pop fly to center field. See, I know the words. I could wear the uniform as well as any man. I hate baseball. It's not a question of who or what I love. It's about the gear I was issued. I'm a free agent. My team contract expired long ago. But what I want is some other sport entirely. I want to swing wild at cooling autumn air. Hear some new crowd-throated song and feel my heart lift beyond the wall as I watch the wave go round and know it's meant for me. Sometimes I shout at the tides. It's easy not to care about people you don't know, have never met. People who don't feel like bones, like stones in the mountain of your body. Whose storms of fears, of tears, like monsoon rains, like hurricanes, don't rampage through the wetlands of your blood. Change the channel. Turn your life to wilderness. Become a land of sere, serene desolation, where dunes mount toward a sky empty of clouds, moisture, mercy. If that is your idea of paradise, if that is what you believe satisfies. Love story. I love stories which I make up, all built from fairy tale middles. I sprint, I swoon, I sleep, and my princes chase me, catch me, wake me, just before we fade to black. In the darkness, love swallows all. I am the bird, beak open, crop ready to receive the seed. And so on and so forth. It doesn't take long before sadness strong hands my ankle and hauls me dripping from salty dreams. Every man I have actually met at the bar, on the apps, in the streets, backseat of a car, bathroom stall, sweat-thickened sheets, is the wrong one. A shadow, or an ogre, or a ghost. I am the siren singing hymns of love from the sea. He, the sailor, triple lashed to his own mast. I am beauty. He, the beast, who only ever remains a beast. Quantum whispers. They say the path of every photon, proton, neutron, electron, and so on and so forth is predetermined since the universe fell off of the wall of before time and shattered into a trillion stars. Which means my every line that limps and flails and does or does not rhyme in all the poems I have or have not written, be they great or terrible, were not mine. I heard there was no point to doing anything, really. These words, this poetry, this caring what happens to my earth, my city, my friends, even when everything is already on fire so hard I can't bike and breathe at the same time. And every time someone doesn't text me back, I start to check the news and get lost in how much I can't save anymore, if I ever could, if anyone could ever save anything at all. But I can't keep believing in lack of free will for any measurable quantum of time because fuck those people anyway. Because I love my friends and my city and my planet and my poetry, and because if it's true, if the universe is nothing but a clockwork machine and we are all just ratchets and cogs, I never could have stopped caring anyway. Yeah. So I have this poetry collection coming out February 2027. Thank you. And I have some cards with my website on it. I also, if you want to sign up for my newsletter, just let me know. Write down your email address. But you can also get to it on my website, so you can keep up with the news. Because I'm also doing a play with the same title, This Body, This Fruit. Tentatively right now scheduled for next summer. This piece I'm going to end with is in my collection that's coming out, and it's also the prelude for my play. So, a little teaser. I have worked on sorrow's farm and tasted all the crops. It was state fair hot. I was late, though I'd meant to show early, hit the gates some ungodly farm hour. Clouds shredded before the sun like cane meets machete, and everywhere sugar stood slowly melting into rainbow pools, flavored with essence of butter rum, molasses, and cotton candy. I was sparkling, sweaty, dressed like a thought, eating cookies, thick, sweet, and hot, dipped in cake batter, dropped in boiling oil, and popped onto a tray of what else? Powdered sugar. And isn't that so American? Slow death buried like a sheathed blade. I ducked into shade, the one cool and mostly empty spot I could find, the health building, where I picked up free Technicolor stickers set out in small wicker baskets like treats. Some bushy-haired old white woman came over to me, head tilted to the side at an angle calculated to convey care. She reminded me of my long-gone grandmother, her toxin-dipped tongue buried along with whatever had chopped down and burned off any love she must have had. The woman asked whether I'd done chemo, if cancer stripped my skull bare, if I was set down and pierced, injected with some artful human venom designed to root out disorder breeding within a womb's garden, rank with weeds and snakes lying silent and thick in the shade. And when I tell you I am sometimes slow to see the blade, you should also know I have survived wounds that could lay a human out, neck to navel flat, splayed like a spatchcocked hen. And my skin is scarred thick enough to turn most points, though sometimes I bruise within. I love to wear wigs, I said. I've got about 7. And at the timbre of my voice, I guess whatever small flame she was trying to keep alight flared up. And she said, "You're transitioning, right?" I am kind and try to assign to others' actions the best intent. So I smiled, genuine, though the back of my throat was softly burning, which I thought must have been all those fried sweets I ate. I said yes, always happy to share my joy. And the woman, who I tried to convince myself meant well, and maybe my scars aren't as thick as I thought, my wounds yet raw and bloody. She said, "It's the female to male ones that still need to be cared for. Pelvic exams and pap smears, right?" Like she was asking me a question. Like she was seeing me as a person and not some invading species, some quivering creature ready to be gutted, stuffed, and mounted on the wall of her den. Maybe she's like those boys I knew as a child, who loved to pull the wings off flies to watch them spin frantically in the dust, as they tried to leap into the air and could not, though all the body remembered the freedom of the middle wind. I tried very hard to stay away from those someday men. I never knew when they would turn to me for their next sport, but I always knew they would. I may be sometimes slow, but I am never cruel. So I may never understand what that woman in the health building at the state fair intended, why she was there or what she was trying to do. But I know the earth is still turning, and I am still breathing. And I believe I harvest more joy from one tender bud in the blossoming wild garden of my chest than she in her life has harrowed from ashed earth to barren sky to the straits of her narrow, bitter sea.
Thank you, Davi Gray, for reminding me why I love poetry. Thank you to our readers, Emily August, Kathryn Kysar, Debra Stone, and Davi Gray. Another round of applause would be a pleasure. If you want to know more, we have a website, midstreamreadingseries.wordpress.com. You can contact us by email, midstreamreadingseries@gmail.com. And tonight's reading and prior readings are on our YouTube channel, which is @Midstream Reading Series. Next month's reading will be, I wrote the date down wrong, second Thursday of November. Diane Jarmanpaugh will be the host, and the readers will be Greg Hewitt, Kathryn Ganfield, Connie Wennick, and John Crumberger. And one last thing, some of us head over to Sweeney's, I don't know what direction that is, after the reading to go sit around and talk about poetry and other stuff. So thank you all, and see you next month.